Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm famous. Joseph Jaffe is a delusional human being who thinks he's famous. He's not famous. He's not famous. I'm famous.
A spring in your step. There is a twinkle in your eye.
I can throw a rhyme down for you real quick. Yes, they call me Thrill. They say that I'm the man. You disagree? How could you? Let me make you understand.
Should we bring her on the show? Can anybody find me? And there she is.
Fresh as some bread. Pull right from the oven. When you feel rejected, you get some my loving.
On me.
She looks wonderful. Mom looks amazing.
Somebody too. Okay, Mo, bugger off now. I've got to show it to you.
Like that?
Joseph Jaffe, ladies and gentlemen.
You just made the new intro of the show. You like that? Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. To use a little bit of the quote from, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, or is it Dumb and Dumberer? Is it Dumberer, or is it? I'm kidding. How are you? Hope you're well. It is another day in paradise. The sun is shining. The earth is baking. Our beautiful planet is shriveling into a prune. But hey, this is a show about hope, positivity, and optimism. So good luck, Earth. I'm sure you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. Wag me. Earth me. I don't even know what that means. Here's what I do know is that Heather Ann Havenwood is my guest on the show. She is the original sexy boss. And we're going to talk about so many things. We're going to talk about influence. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, misogyny. Actually, we're going to talk about female empowerment. We're going to talk about celebrating not just women, but strong women as well. Got a little bit verklempt there. I don't know why, but yeah, I got a little bit verklempt. Mainly because I guess when I think about my mom, she's the ultimate strong woman. So we'll see if she's watching. If so, she'll get a little bit of a shout out. I would like to shout out my Alpha Collective. And, I'm celebrating the fact that right now, I'm not going to sing one by you two, Bono. You don't have to sue. Don't worry about it. But right now, a pass for the Alpha Collective is 1 ETH. Just 1 ETH. Maybe it will go lower, but the way ETH is climbing today, it may very well go lower. It's pretty exciting to see what we hope will be a little bit of a revival, a little bit of a recovery. And, I'm a big believer in the new decentralized approach. One thing that I've been chatting about, interestingly enough, is this concept of level playing fields. And I was actually in a room this morning on Clubhouse, and it was said to me, the playing fields are not level. And I know that they're not, in the sense that the Matthews effect is in play. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. But for the most part, I still believe, maybe idealistically, aspirationally, in the power of creators now, the creator economy, in the power of entrepreneurship. Ever since the dawn of digital, we had the ability to empower David to take on Goliath. And I think for the most part, as we've seen Web 1 to Web 2 to now Web 3, we get another crack at taking down Goliath. So hope springs eternal, but I think it is important to recognize, and certainly we've seen this with respect to what it is to be a woman today, and even a strong woman in the workplace, that the playing field is not level, and the rules are flawed and the odds have been stacked against the players. And so in those types of situations, the best thing to do is break the rules, make new rules, change the game, or guess what? Start your own game. And I'm sure we will discuss that later. One of the things I'm so pumped over is the Collective Cafe. It is the third week of launching a virtual coffee in the Discord server of Alpha Collective. And we're doing it Monday through Friday, 8 through 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And there is only one rule, and that is hope, positivity, and optimism, HPO, must prevail. And we're discussing so many incredible topics. We are collectively creating and launching a book in 7 weeks. Anybody who wants to be a part of it can be. Right now, you can be a part of it. And here's the cool part. You will get royalties by being a part of it. Not only will our contributors get royalties, but even readers will get royalties. This might be the first book created where every single person that helps the book's success will share in the book's success as well. Pretty cool. And here is my mom, like clockwork, who is watching. Speaking of strong woman as well. So let's get on with the show. And it is now time to discuss our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called the ISNOP scheme. And the ISNOP scheme has been created, inspired by yesterday's guest, Tony Watley. And we discussed community, real community, not being a traditional triangle, the top down, the triangle that sometimes looks like a pyramid, a pyramid that sometimes looks like a Ponzi scheme. Well, here's the thing. The opposite of Ponzi is ISNOP. The ISNOP, for those of you that don't speak ISNOP, is an upside down triangle. And this is what Tony started to talk about. He spoke about the fact that a real community, a strong community, doesn't have the founder at the top, the ruler, the ruler archetype, preaching down, controlling the community. In fact, a really strong community has the founder at the very bottom, almost holding up the community. There is something so powerful about the idea that if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, as you move from the lowest order to the highest order, who sits at the top of the pyramid? Not the founder, not the boss, but ultimately the community. Maybe the most downtrodden member of the community, maybe the community member that was the weakest, the most vulnerable, that has been propped up, has been celebrated, has been lifted up. That's who sits at the top of the triangle. That's how a Ponzi scheme becomes an ISNOP scheme. I love it. And you know what? When I think about building the Alpha Collective, this is the model that I'm going to deploy. I will be at the bottom, and at the very top, well, depends who buys a membership, but hopefully will be you. And now it's time to move to you, as in Heather Havenwood. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. I won't call her sexy, because even though she is the sexy boss, because now my mother is watching. So I have to mind my P's and Q's. Heather Ann Havenwood is an award-winning media mogul. She is known as the chief sexy boss. I think she got a promotion. She's the author of the top-selling book, Sexy Boss, How Female Empowerment is Changing the Rulebook in Business. She was recognized by the Stevie Awards as the most innovative woman of the year in social media for 2020, named Top Media Mogul 2020 by the Women of Achievement Association for her work with women, from making her first dollar online back in 2001. Heather Ann is now on a life legacy mission to help 1 million people to start, launch, and grow a 6-figure consulting expert and influencer business online. And her next book, Uncaged, is coming out soon. It is time to uncage her Heather Havenwood, welcome to the show. Oh, wow.
I just feel like I have to do that. Hi, how are you?
Hold
I
on,
was
wait.
just like, I was gonna
is
come
that-
up with some money.
Is that real money?
I have stacks of money around my house.
Yeah, it's not JAFFE coin, right?
No, sorry.
Damn. Yeah, I like, so having real money around the house, does it, what does it do to you?
Well, I always have money around. So it's
you-
yeah,
You can spend it, I suppose.
it's the affirmation, right? So there's always money around. There's always money in my space. There's always abundance. I always have abundance. It's something a friend of mine did. He actually gave me this big thing of money for a birthday gift, and I just kind of like it's around my house. It's everywhere. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting little thing that I do. So it's on my desk.
Yeah, listen, you might be. We better not divulge where you live right now, otherwise more people are coming over to visit. If you would like to have tea with Heather Havenwood, just show up. She lives in Portland, Oregon.
Right. No. God. Sorry. Oops. I'm from Texas, right? So I'm born and raised Texas.
Is that the opposite?
That's the opposite of into the world, right? But I do live in Tampa.
I'm trying for people not to come and find the money. I watched too much Better Call Saul this week or last week as well. So no spoilers, absolutely no spoilers. So we have a lot to talk about, but one of the places I like to begin, besides the beginning, is, and I completely forgot to do it yesterday, but it's a little fun facts segment. And, and I will tell you, Heather, look, first of all, you keep me honest. You were like, you do know that in your briefing document at the bottom, you say my 3 favorite episodes were, and you said, that they're all male, right? So, I'm going to have to make sure that now this episode is replacing one of the male.
Your intro too is all men.
Which one? You mean? Oh, but that's you mean
Yeah, your intro. You have the kind of the singing choir, and then the intro is all men. Yeah.
So you're keeping me honest, but my mother was in that, so there you go.
Well, not as a guest though. And hi, Mom. Nice to meet you.
You know what? I would like her to be a guest on the show. Maybe she might be a surprise guest on the show. Right now, she's probably saying, no. But I have other intros. But as I said, we have to be vigilant, right? Heather, we have to be vigilant. One of the things I've done with Alpha Collective is to commit to 26 males and 26 females, or those that identify as such, as part of the speaker lineup, because as I've said, I'm sick and tired of people paying lip service to this, lamenting about.
Yeah, I want to say something real quickly about that, and thanks for being cool about it when I sent it, because lots of times people get upset at me, and I think one of the things is that I was just bringing to it's an awareness conversation.
Yes.
And I think we as human beings naturally will gravitate towards of like mind, and will gravitate towards the people that we resonate with, which is sometimes us, right? Our mirror. That's just like common knowledge. You just throw yourself into a bunch of strangers. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go towards someone that we recognize, probably someone looks like us. So male being male, that's what you're going to attract to, unless we become an awareness to, let me, change this up. It's not an against you. It's just like an awareness of. And I think that's one thing I constantly bring this up. And it's only been a couple of times I've had people like really get mad at me. Well, my favorite was, there's no women speakers out there. And I'm like, wow, really? So I think it's just an awareness conversation, not a blame or get upset at you. Yeah.
And you know what? Awareness and self-awareness is the first step. If you're not, it's like a problem, right? The first step towards solving a problem is to admit that there is a problem. And, and it's funny because you can be vigilant to a fault. I took the first step actually when I went and did a little audit of my guests, and the percentage of female to male was 19% female to, 81% male. And it was just unacceptable. And so, I took steps to change that, but also I admitted it, and it wasn't premeditated. So maybe it was a lack of awareness, or maybe it was subconscious, or maybe it was completely innocent, but none of that changed the fact that the number was 19 and it shouldn't have been. And it's as simple as that.
It's an 80-20 rule, right? I mean, 80-20 principle around that. So, but I think it's an interesting conversation. I was having a conversation earlier this week about the whole feminine masculinity, and there's a lot of stuff going on with that. But 53% of the population on the planet at the moment is female. I mean, that's just reality. It's just facts, right? Feel free to look it up. And when I'm not going to say identify as or anything like that, I'm just talking female. So when we come from that perspective, and then you look at from a corporation perspective or even entrepreneurs, majority it's pretty much 80% male at this point still. You have to look at it. It is so interesting because the buying power is more with female. And so we have to look at how are you going to actually serve the human planet if we're not going to have other people's perspective. And that's just a gender conversation. Then you add other things, right? But I think that's the first thing. And so something I need to change in my bio that you did say, and you did read it correctly, that's not on you, it's on me, is that my goal is actually to help 1 million women start.
That's what I thought. I was like,
that's not you. That's me, like, not changing it. Because, and nothing against men. It's just really about the fact that my vision is to help 1 million women start and grow their own business to become financially sovereign. And then the question is why? Someone say, well, it's because you're female. And that's actually not the case. I spent majority of my entrepreneurial years working with men, building businesses with men, and actually helping men. So that isn't a thing against another thing. It's actually for female entrepreneurs because a lot of them aren't leaning in. They are a little bit more now, but it comes from my mom. My mom was thrown into business, and she was trained from a little girl and all through college to be a mom, to be a wife. That was it. That was her trajectory. That was her training. And when she was thrown into the business world, she was lost. And she didn't do very well. And so we struggled a lot growing up. And so I think that's where I really want to give women the opportunity to actually have a different kind of thinking process and training.
Yeah, listen, my mom was also thrown into business as well when my dad died tragically, and it was sink or swim, and she swam. But
yeah, that's great.
Heather, watch this. Here we go. Let's go. From making her first dollar online back in 2001, Heather Ann is now on a life legacy mission to help 1 million women to start, launch, and grow a 6-figure consulting expert and influencer business online. How about that?
I thank you for that. I will be clipping that. Yes.
Yeah,
By the way, I just clipped it and went to Instagram, and I also messaged you. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a big deal for me. And that was a big shift for me. And I was told many times not to do it by my friends and the colleagues in the business. So this book actually came from Sexy Boss book, if you're listening, from my friend Joe Sugarman. Joe Sugarman, who just recently passed away here in 2022, early 2022. He was a huge mentor, friend, father figure. He was one of the known as one of the most successful direct response marketers in the country, along with Dan Kennedy and Gary Halbert and many others. But he's the one who actually helped me write this book. He's the one that named me Sexy Boss. He's the one that looked at me one day while we were having salad in Las Vegas and said, "You're like a sexy boss and you need to empower women and talk to women." And I was like, what? Because at the moment he said that to me, JAFFE, I was literally working a business where I taught men how to date women. That was my everyday business. So it was kind of this take back. And he's like, yeah, I think it's time for you to shift gears and really focus on female entrepreneurs. So here we are. But it was a big deal.
Well, before we go back to the fun facts, I do want to ask you a question about that, because there's almost, it's like many good things, there is surprise and there is something unexpected. And there's something unexpected about even the personal brand and the phrase sexy boss, and then ultimately the mission and the vision and the purpose, which is to lift up, to empower, to accelerate as well. Have you found, or how do you reconcile the word sexy and even boss in terms of this idea of female entrepreneur empowerment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So funny because there's usually two responses. I will get majority of men have a sexualization around that. They'll be like, oh my God, sexy boss. Oh, and they get all in their head, almost as if it's not okay to be the sexy and the boss. Then I will get women who be like, hell yeah, I'm a sexy boss, right? It's really interesting because women desire to be strong, the boss of their life, the boss of their creation, the boss of their reality, the boss of their finances, and also feel look great. I mean, yes, and it's always a yes, and. Now we're not taught that. In fact, it wasn't until the 70s, the early 70s. Just remember this, the early 70s, it was not up until the 70s that women could actually have their own credit card or actually buy a house without a man. Okay, that's new. So there was a whole essence around women had to, in a way, be with a man to survive, really, and to the 70s. Okay, so when we start to look at sexualization, where back then the sexualization was to attract a partner so that you could survive, if not thrive. Now it's about the what I call Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. There's a chapter in there called Sex Transmutation. Sex Transmutation chapter is about the sensuality and the charismatic energy that we as human beings all have. So that's what, to me, Sexy Boss is about. Sexy Boss is about really tapping into your own personal energy source, a sex transmutation inside that chapter, to actually be able to be very charismatic, be strong in what you want, be clear in what you want, and go after what you want. That, to me, is charisma, and that's sexy.
Here's what I love about it as well. And I appreciate the dialogue and the articulation, because I think men and women watching, right, are going to look at it differently. And there obviously many different men are going to look at the same thing differently. But here's the thing. The word sexy in this particular case is inward focused, you know, as opposed to outward. And I think that's the thing that hits me over the head, which is by the way, in this case, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, but it's about looking at yourself in the mirror and loving who you are and loving what you see and feeling good, not doubting, not self-doubting. And so much of this world is about being able to be confident in your ability to take on the odds, and also not to allow other people to beat you down and beat you up and make you feel less than. And so I really appreciate that explanation. It's very, very clear.
Absolutely. In fact, my entire business around teaching men how to date women was based on that one chapter in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, called Sex Transmutation. It's a horrible name of a chapter, but remember, he wrote this in the 30s. Okay. And majority of the book was actually pushed off. He wasn't even able to actually publish all of the book. There's the original book is called Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. It's about 500 pages. It's very, very thick, like a Bible. I actually have it. And that chapter goes really more in depth. And what it says is pretty much the following, that a successful man, because again, this was written in the 30s, the successful man is very charismatic, and a successful man has sexual energy. So I can name a few names, Brad Pitt, Bill Clinton, right? People who had high sexual energy.
Joseph JAFFE.
Thank
You. That's how you get in the. That's how you get in the intro, Heather.
That's thank you, Joseph. Yeah, sorry. Yes, and of course,
again.
So Joseph JAFFE, right? So part of this was I used to teach men how to conjure up that sexual energy within themselves to attract the female that they desired in the world of energy. But that's also used in business. And so Sexy Boss is actually empowering women to actually tap into that energy as well, to own their life, to create their reality, to have what they want, and to really tap into that. And it's not something we're taught. It's not like we have a section in school or college that says how to conjure up your confidence and your sexual energy. But that's what Napoleon Hill talks about. And that is actually a chapter in Think and Grow Rich and Law of Success.
And I had no idea that the book was written in the 30s.
34, 19, yeah, 30. Yeah,
Wow.
It was actually published in 34. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's how we have to write books, Heather. We need books that can, last 95, 100 years.
Yeah.
Note to self. Now, David Libby is here, and he says, "Yo, Joe, I was thinking that too." You see, at least now there are two people that think I'm sexy, myself and David. But glad you're watching. All right, let's go back to some fun facts about Heather Havenwood, because this is what the world wants to know. The world wants to know who is the real Heather Havenwood. And I have to tell you, like, one thing, speaking of sexualization and also sensitivity, it's always interesting for me. And obviously I have to be more aware when I end up very badly photoshopping someone's head on somebody else's body. So in your case, one of them is actually you, and I didn't have to Photoshop anything. The other one is very badly Photoshopped, and the other one, I didn't even go there. So here's what we're talking about. First fun fact about you is, this is the one I didn't even go there, which is you recently finished 75 Hard. Tell us about this program, and tell us about this experience.
Oh, this was so good, and it was hard, and most people don't finish it. So 75 Hard is 75 days straight. You cannot miss a day, or you just start over. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. You have to work out twice a day. Each one has to be 45 minutes. One has to be outside. You have to be on a diet and no alcohol, and you have to read 10 pages a day.
Hell no.
Yeah, I know. Most people say that. They're like, it's usually the twice a workout or the alcohol that gets people. They're like,
no, I was going to say, there's no way I'm reading 10 pages a day. No, I'm kidding. So you finished it.
Completed it.
And was there not just a physical transformation, but was there also a mental transformation?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was in a little Facebook group. It was like 40 people that started it, and about 4 of us, less than 10, about 10%, 4 people completed. And there was a girl in there who I know she had done it before, so this is her way of doing it again. And she gave some really good advice at the very beginning, and I'm really glad she gave it. She said, this is not a fitness program. This is 100% mental. And so as soon as that hit for me, then I stopped making every workout ridiculously hard and did a yoga or a slight Pilates, or maybe just a walk outside. It was about the principle and the habits. Yeah. So that was a key piece. But then, of course, as entrepreneurs, right, the moment that you change something, everything kind of domino effects. So there was a lot of things that came out of that. I had my new event came out of that. I also had created a bunch of new systems in my business and my CRM, because it helped me get up early. I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was working out by 8. Before then, I was doing my meditation and reading my books by 8 a.m. So I created a new system and actually a new habit of getting up early. So it was awesome. Yeah, it was good.
Bez is here, and he said, good to see you at Heather Havenwood, and that he's loving the convo. You said a really important word there, and the word is system. When we talk about systemic and systematic and changing the system as it relates to, for example, gender equality, or especially in the workplace, so much of this is systematic. And I also love the takeaway that it actually led to other things. It led to different things, the change in thinking, the change in habits. I hope people are that are watching recognize, for example, that to call it a fitness program would have diminished the doors that it opened and how it helped you ladder up.
Yeah, like I didn't look. People kept asking me, "How much weight did you lose?" That was another little thing that she said. She goes, "Don't look at scale. Like, don't that. This is not a fitness program. You will get a benefit of that, but that's not what it was." The other thing that I did, which is actually something that I learned in a self-development course 25 years ago, is if you are creating big changes like that, you want to start to speak into everybody's listening what you're doing. So I was telling everyone, I'm talking like if I went to get coffee, they'd be like, whatever. And I go, I'm doing 75 hard and I'm on day 20 or whatever. And so what happened is people in my life, because I live in a very big apartment complex, people would say to me, "Hey, what day are you on?" Randomly, "Hey, Heather, what day are you on?" They wanted to be involved. And that helped me stay in the process. Right. I think that sometimes we as human beings try to become alone in the process. And if we change how people view us by speaking what we want them to actually say to us, it will help us. That makes sense. So if we walk around and say, "Oh my God, I'm having a shitty day," they're going to start thinking us that way. If you're walking around going, "I'm going to have an amazing day and I'm doing very well in my business and everything is going to be great," you're speaking into the listening of what you want them to see you as. And some people might say, "Well, that's faking it," but is it really, or is it actually creating your reality? And then what happened is people would, they some of them actually knew what day it was. After I saw them, they'd be like, "Oh my God, yesterday was day 75, right? I've been following you on Instagram because I've been wanting to watch you." It really gave me the encouragement. And so now I'm looking at doing it again, of course. But it was a fun thing that I did. I really kind of involved every single person around me, down to the dog walkers and just random people.
I had to find the right track because my comeback was going to be I'm doing the soft 0.75. There we go. Well, you know what? Not every joke has to land, but that's why you have a laugh track.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Actually, speaking into people's listening. I guess the one interpretation of that is the concept of manifesting, but it's not just manifesting. It's actually projecting. And it's also this idea of, if you visualize it and if you verbalize it, then you have a better chance of materializing it.
Right.
And I do that too, by the way, and drives my family crazy. I'll tell anyone who will listen about anything I'm doing, strangers, and they're like, not everybody cares.
It's not about caring. It's not about them actually caring. It's actually about you speaking into listening. And the fact that they now see you as you're doing that actually enhances it. So I used to do this when I first did a bodybuilding contest back in 2015 on my 40th birthday. It's a true story. On my 40th birthday, there happened to be a weekend of a bodybuilding contest. And so I decided that I was going to walk across the stage and do this bodybuilding contest. So around the gym, I would literally tell strangers like, "Hey, yeah, I'm doing a bodybuilding contest on my 40th birthday. Instead of cake, I'm going to get in a tiny bikini and walk across the stage in like, tanning goo." And everyone thought it was funny. And I started speaking that to, again, anyone that would actually just say hello to me. And guess what happened? People started to empower that. Like, "Hey, how did that event go?" Or, "Hey, is that event? When's your birthday?" This is the girl that on her 40th birthday, she's going to walk across the stage in a bikini versus eat cake. Oh my God, that's so cool. You know what I mean? And it empowered me. Because if I just made the decision, I'm going to do that, and then I didn't get that empowerment from the environment, it would have been 10 times harder. But when you create the reality, like my book, I created a book during COVID. I call it my COVID baby book. And I've been speaking to the listening. It's almost done. And it's just, I have to keep speaking about it, because if not, it will get lost off my radar. So it's coming out, and my visualization is going to be a New York Times bestselling book. I just know that. I know it's going to be a New York Times bestselling book. That's just my visualization of it. This book right here, talk about visualization. So I did this in 90 days, from thought process to entire writing and everything. Okay. Including my audiobook, which was really hard. Audiobook, Kindle, full book onto Amazon. I did it in 90 days. And what's so interesting about that is that I had to start speaking about the book before it got released. Does that make sense? And when you start speaking that, things happen. Now, I will tell you, JAFFE, I think you'll love this story because I know you're writing a book right now. About a year plus later, almost 2 years later after the book was published, I was on an interview like this, and the lovely podcast host said to me, "Congratulations on your book being number Amazon bestseller." And I said, "Oh, sweetie, I appreciate that. I'm not one of those people that, are going to lie to you. It's not, And she goes, "No, yes, it is." And she literally shared her screen and she's like, "There it is." And I'm like, right? Because I just
Wow.
focus on adding value versus got to get it to Amazon. I just was out there being on podcasts, speaking about it. And I'm really proud of that moment because that was natural. Like that hit, that was just me out there speaking. And I think that's really important. Sometimes we create a book or create a podcast and we feel like we have to hit some numbers versus just adding value.
That's a hell there you go. That's a hell of a story. And David actually has a question. He said, "Where did Heather find her confidence? Was it always that way?"
I don't know how to answer that. No, I'm a Baptist girl gone bad, or a Baptist girl gone badass, as I call it. I was actually, trained and groomed to be a wife, and my job was to basically just procreate and be a wife. But I just always had this innate desire to do something different. I'm the black sheep of my family. No one else does entrepreneurship. Everyone works for big companies or jobs or things like that. I don't know where I got my confidence. It's a great question. I've never actually had that question before.
Well, I mean, this, that so many people now are trying to, going back to this idea of female empowerment, women trying to find their voice and develop their confidence and overcome, it's something. You are a strong woman. Strong women are. You're welcome. But it's a fact. It's not even. It's a compliment, but it's also a fact. And the thing is, strong women are so threatening to not just men, but especially weak men. And I was thinking about this, and I'm actually going to not manifest it, but just say it. Which is, I was talking the other day, and I was talking about being an ally. I am an ally for gender equality and for women, and I've learned from women that the word is actually, it's important to acknowledge. I wouldn't have said it otherwise. And then I said, I want to be an ally for strong women. But then I recognize a strong woman would say to me, "Thanks so much, Joe, but we don't need your help." When it comes to a strong woman, but that's the thing. It's like, as when it goes back to the concept of what you said with the sexual energy from men. When men do it, it's okay. When women do it, it's not. And that's the double standard that absolutely has to change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have this. I'm a chivalry girl, right? So if I have a man open my door for me or pay for dinner, to me that's like, yes. I'm a Southern girl through and through. So when men open the door for me, I'm like, thank you. I still believe in that concept of having a strong man and not weakening men. I think that's something that I've heard in the conversations where strong woman means equal means less than man or something. I don't know. I disagree with that. I think that there is a possibility, for me anyway, what I feel I am is I have a strong feminine energy, right? I've tapped into that. I've allowed that to come out. I was not necessarily trained that way from family. I was trained in the church. I was a Baptist girl. I was trained very opposite. Everyone in my high school, who I don't talk to anybody there, but high school and college, they all have a very different life than me. So I think that one of the things I just had to make a decision. It was an internal thing. But I will say something that people don't know about me. I didn't put this down is, I was in speech therapy for 7 years of my life. So people always ask me, why do you not sound Southern? Well, I can turn it on if I want to, like I can turn Southern on. But that's because I was born and raised in Houston, born and raised in Texas, with a very Southern family where I'm talking like, come on over for supper, honey, like very Southern. And I was in speech therapy for 7 years because I stopped talking. I had something that tragically happened to me when I was very young in our family, and I stopped communicating. Like I just went off, as they call it. I just went inward. So from 0 to 7, I didn't talk. And so I was in speech therapy 3 times a week from 7 to 14. And that's where I learned my articulation. You can hear that, right? Is articulation. And luckily I use it now for a living. So I find it fascinating that I speak now for a living, or I'm on radio, I'm on TV, or all kinds of different things on podcasting where I articulate. It's just an interesting little fact. I think that's maybe where I get the confidence. I don't know.
See, and there, thank you for sharing that. And there, I was thinking when you spoke about things about you, I thought you were going to talk about the fact that you salsa. And
I do.
And that was the bad Photoshop, I might add.
That is like the best ever. I just have to. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
But
a great dress. Yes.
But the third thing about you, and this is another one, it's like the sexy boss kind of like almost contradiction.
Yes.
Is that you were crowned Miss Texas 2020 Woman of Achievement.
Yes.
So this also almost seems like a contradiction as well, which is you're Miss Texas Woman of Achievement. So what tell us more, and congratulations.
Thank you. I could do my little wave. So I had this opportunity in late 2019. I just met Martha Stewart, believe it or not, in New York City. And I was approached by this woman. She's like, hey, we're having this pageant and I would love for you to come and, be part of this Woman of Achievement. And I was like, pageant? I'm over 43, 4 or something. She's like, I think you should do great. So I, got sponsors. I got a shampoo sponsor because those dresses are expensive. I got a shampoo sponsor. I got a sunscreen sponsor, and I $10,000 and me and a bunch of dresses went out to California with Woman of Achievement, and I was crowned Miss Elite. Means over 40, by the way. So Miss Elite Texas, me and my awesomeness. And just so you know, gentlemen, that hair and that makeup, that right there took about 4 hours to create, and I was not allowed to touch that for 3 days. I slept like that because my woman said, if you touch your hair with any water or your face, I'm going to charge you double. So I would like sleep like that. The hair was so big that if you moved it, it would just like roll over. But yeah, that was makeup and hair for 3 days. I literally lived like that.
So interesting that elite means over 40. Thank God they didn't call you Miss Mature Woman of Achievement, because I guess mature is 50 or 60. But
I know. I was like,
it's a new thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. So, but I had a good time. I think it was perfect timing. It was right before COVID, and I traveled to California it was a national competition, and I was crowned Miss Texas, and it was a lot of fun. I never thought in a million years I'd do it. They also gave me an award for a media award of Woman of Achievement as well. That was really awesome that I won that as well. It was an entire process. And yes, it was a very different side of me. And when I started posting online, people were like, this is a whole nother side of you. But people forget I was brought up. My mother was a debutante. My mother was a Baptist Texas debutante. So I was kind of brought up in that. But I didn't really showcase that until that particular thing. So
the Baptist girl gone badass.
Yes.
I love it. That should be your new tagline. Or maybe it's your next book.
Yes.
I'm learning so much about you, and the more I learn, the more I like.
you.
Brian Piper is here, and he said, "Love your energy and
Oh, hey,
drive,
I know him.
Heather." Yeah, I mean it's amazing. Now, I tell you who else is amazing is Whitney Lauritsen. It is Wellness Wednesday, and
Oh,
so
cool.
we're going to hear from Whitney, and then Heather, we will resume our wonderful conversation. Take it away, Whitney.
2 weeks ago, I started a new little mini series for Wellness Wednesday based on my experiences at a retreat I went to in Costa Rica in July 2022. And I've been sharing the things that I've learned, the biggest lessons from each day of the retreat. This is day 3, in which I was feeling extremely sensitive. I was noticing vulnerability and fear, sometimes some anger, some sadness coming up for me. And I was writing down in my journal that how important it was for me to listen to that as opposed to avoid it. It's so easy when we're feeling tough emotions to try to run away from them, to deny them. But I was working during this retreat to listen more, to acknowledge my feelings and really write them down in detail, which I did in my journal. It helped me move through a lot of uncertainty, discomfort. It reminded me that I can do the scary things, similar to what I mentioned on the previous Wellness Wednesday episode. I also learned how to respect my boundaries, acknowledge them more, acknowledge myself more, and notice my needs. And sometimes meeting my own needs meant disappointing somebody, or it meant missing out on something, and that was okay. So finding a lot of acceptance in that. And prioritizing myself was a big benefit of doing that. So I feel like these are important reminders. And if you can relate to any of this, what can you do to lean more in and prioritize yourself, to notice yourself, to listen to yourself? And if you haven't already been in the practice of it, writing it down in a journal is a really quick way to start. You can do that right now.
Or you can write it down on one of the pages of Sexy Boss.
Yes, absolutely. I actually talk about that a lot, about just, she said something really interesting that went to me when you are a sexy boss or a sexy stud, because of course, JAFFE, you are a sexy stud. That I think one of the things is starting to choose yourself. And there's a statement that actually I live by. It's a question. And the question is, does this feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? It's a really powerful question. And I ask myself that question for everything. Like before I did 75 Hard, does it feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? Before I wrote that book, does it feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? Before I start working with someone, does it feed my confusion or strengthen my clarity? And when we start to strengthen our own clarity versus someone else's goals, someone else's clarity, someone else's desires for us to live into their dreams, then we get to be more powerful. And I think what happens in our society today, JAFFE, is that we sometimes are not allowed to ask, or they want us not to be allowed to ask questions. Well, why are you doing that? And why are you charging me that? And why are you wanting us to do that? Or I'm not really sure about that. And there's some people that welcome those kinds of questions. I'm so glad you asked that. Let's go down that road, versus out with your head. How dare you question me? And we as a society in the United States anyways, we were kind of trained to not ask questions, right? Think about first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. Just do what the teacher says, right? But as entrepreneurs, I think it's our job, doing responsibility, and creators to ask questions and to allow ourselves to say, well, I'm not sure about that. I don't really agree with that. It's okay to disagree with things like that. And our current cancel culture, as we have named it, sometimes people aren't allowed to ask questions, or they're not allowed to say, I don't really agree with that. And it's okay not to agree with that. I think one of the things that I'm starting to see, especially recently, is what I call the death of the guru. Coming from someone who's been in the guru business for almost 20 years, I started with the largest seminar company in the country in 2001. I traveled the country, over 450 events in 10 years. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours on airplanes traveling, and being in rooms like Tony Robbins, Robert Allen, and many, many more. I learned that, in those world of the guru, right, where you have the rushing to the back of the room and throwing credit cards in the back and all those kinds of things, those days of just following gurus or following people to follow people, I think are really done. I don't agree with that model. It's worked for many years. Think of like pastors, think of people in our industry that feel like they can create a group or community or whatever you want to call it, and just have the flock follow. And yes, people will always be interested in that because they feel a loss of themselves. But the people that stand up to that and say, I don't really agree with that, or, I really understand that you think that, but I'm just not in alignment with that. A good leader, not a guru, a good leader will say, thank you. Thank you for questioning that. What's your point? What's your idea? I'd love for you to come up here and have a conversation. Let's actually debate that out, or let's figure out what's best for the community or group or everyone. That is what we need now more than anything, is not dictatorship, not gurus, right? But actually leaders. It's not knowledge that we want anymore, JAFFE. At least I don't know about you, but I don't, because I think there's a moving of the free lines called YouTube. Really, any information you can get now, right? The knowledge has been moved. The free line has been moved. What people want are leaders, not gurus. Leaders. And the only way to start really finding that leadership is leading ourselves first. And when you lead yourself, you'll find a leader within yourself, and you'll find the leader of the person that you may go, hey, I want to train with you. I want to mentor with you, right? I think mentorship is critical. Leadership is critical. Gurus are just out. That's my perspective.
You get the air horn for that. And I love this concept of moving the free line. So now I understand what you're talking about with respect to, it's like moving the chains. It's
Yes.
this idea of also the frame has changed. And here's how I reconcile that, because I've pushed back against Web 2, against where everything was free and no one would pay. And what I believe is, you don't command respect, you earn respect. You build community. This is ISNOP, right? This is the bottom of the triangle, that everything trickles down now to the founder or the host or the leader, instead of having to ladder or bubble up to the top. And so the benevolent or the generous or the selfless leader is one that is going to allow, and it's also this transition from knowledge, because as you say, just go to Google, to this idea of wisdom, this idea of experience. David says, I totally agree. There's just too many coaches. Yeah, we got that. And he said, right, don't motivate us. Tell us how to do it and what to do. Yes?
That's what I call mentorship, David. But there's a difference between mentorship, right? So let me just take for a second, because I've come from the coaching business for almost 23 years. My dad was big in the coaching business and still is. And there's a difference between coach and mentor. Okay. So a coach, so think of like an NFL coach. A good coach can be on the sidelines and go, okay, David, you just went left, but if you really want the ball, you need to go right next time. Right. That's a good coach, because having a good coach on the sidelines to see where you can't see a different perspective, that's a really strong coach. A mentor is someone who's been there in front of you on this particular game, maybe real estate investing or Web3 or Web2, and said, hey, in my experience, David, you want that deal. My experience is to do this, this, and this. Now, it may or may not work, but the mentors say, I've been in front of you on this, and I've done this before. What happens is people go, well, I think I have opinion and I could coach you. That's not coaching. That's opinion. right? That's an opinion. So there's a difference between opinion, advice, coaching, and mentorship. Advice is a lawyer, right? I have this issue and I don't know how to handle and navigate the law. Okay, that's advice. So when you move down those roles, that's what happens. But where a guru comes in is, I love, Tony has that movie. Tony Robbins has that movie, I'm Not Your Guru. I love that movie because he's like, look, I'm helping you and giving you a new perspective on life and a different view to support you in your goals and to motivate you to the next level. But I'm not your guru. Guru is like you give your power away to that person. And I've seen that way too much in this business.
And I think, and I love this idea of the coach versus the mentor, the advice versus opinion. And there's probably a place for someone when someone's opinion is asked for. And I think that's important as well. If someone says, hey, Joe, what do you think about the metaverse? Well, I can give you an opinion, but it also, going back to what David's saying, it's based on what I've done before. It is based on my credentials. It's based on my credibility, as opposed to, like, if you ask me what's my opinion on cloning, it's like, go ask anybody. So to me, Heather, I think the key piece here is there's got to be a certain amount of humility present in terms of being able to say, and it comes down to, like, just the most empowering response ever to give is, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know. Right.
I don't know.
I think a really good mentor, one of my mentors taught me this, is that a good mentor will tell you, that's out of my wheelhouse, or I haven't been down that path, or that's a great question. I don't know. Let's figure that out together. That's a good mentor. But when someone goes up against someone and then they literally just slash them or whatnot. I recently had something happen back in October. It was a big organization that I was in, a very large one out of California. And it was an organization that I had a bunch of people I knew respected, and I started questioning. I'm like, well, yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I'm not really in agreement with that. And I got slashed out of it. They're like, off with your head. How dare you question us? And I'm like, that doesn't work. That's not alignment. If it doesn't feel in alignment with me and where I'm going in my future, then why would I just follow this ship off the deathbed, follow the ship off to the cliff, And I think what happens is we have to realize as human beings is that we were trained, especially in America, we were trained from age 6, first grade, to follow the teacher, follow the guru off the cliff. And we have to wake up and say no more. We have to stop doing that. And I think that's what Web3 is doing. I think that's what's happening with the empowerment of women, is it's allowing us to say, let's look at that. Let's just ask some questions about that. I don't know if that's really in alignment anymore. I don't know. Let's maybe have a change. I think that's really important right now.
Does it feed my confusion or does it strengthen my clarity?
Yes.
We have a couple minutes left, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Heather Havenwood is Uncaged. Watch out, world. This is a podcast as well, right?
Yes.
Or is it just a book?
No, this is my podcast. Yes. But my book is coming out in alignment with this book. I'm sorry, with this podcast called Uncaged, with the 7 steps on how to take your knowledge and turn it into wealth. But Uncaged is interesting. You have your name of your show, JAFFE. I've had like 5 names of my show. And this came out around the end of 2019, right before we were all caged up in COVID. And so then my book, Uncage and Uncage Yourself, was actually born during COVID baby, as I call it. And I think one of the things I love about this look and feel of this show, it's all about uncaging our voice and our opinion, and really making sure it's opinion. If you are coaching, if you are giving advice, it's clear this is advice or this is mentorship. But at the end of the day, it's okay to have an opinion. The place where it gets what I call scary is when people push their opinion on you and shame you or me, whoever, shame the person for questioning that, right? That's where I have a real problem right now in our current culture, is where people go, how dare you think that way? And it's like, I'm allowed to have a different perspective. I'm really allowed to have that. And I honor your perspective. And this isn't about politics. This could be about anything, right? And I think one of the things I just want to encourage is a place where people can all communicate and talk collectively, where we can have a deeper conversation on what matters for all of us.
It may as well be called Heather Havenwood is Unleashed, but she is uncaged. Watch out, world. She is coming to a bookstore near you. Guest number 391, Heather Havenwood. If you want to connect with her on the Twitter, on Instagram, find her in the club, connect with her on LinkedIn. You can discourse with her, have a conversation with her in Discord. You can connect with her and find out more about what she's up to at heatherhavenwood.com. Of course, buy Sexy Boss wherever books are sold, and look out for Uncaged. And last but not least, and I almost forgot, very important, sign up for Heather's upcoming events, podcastersclass.com and influencerprofitlive.com. Heather, I have to give you at least 30 seconds to 1 minute to tell people about both of these events.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This has been a ton of fun. So one of the things I'm real big on is helping people launch their own voice through the power of podcasting. And so I have a course called Podcasters Class. Another way to say that is a podcast at a weekend, where you come in after 3 days. It's a workshop, and you actually get your entire podcast done for you, everything done, and launched in 29 different countries around the world. And Influencer Profit Live is a 3-day event where I really talk about the power of influence and how to find your hero's journey to truly attract the right fit clients for you in your business.
Amazing. Well, listen, I'm ready to sign up. I've had so much fun as well that I even forgot to give the quote of the episode. But here it is. There are two powers in the world. One is the sword and the other is the pen. Actually, there's a third power stronger than both, that of woman. That was said by the one and only Malala. And she knows what she's talking about. I will be signing up, and I'll tell you who else will be signing up. If you watch the show, you know who very diligently supports all our guests. It's Mr. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.